Thank you for joining us today. My name is Yves Francois. My partner and I, Muhammad Islam. We will be discussing hacking. More specifically, we will be touching upon black hat hackers. I will be discussing a brief history on hacking, how it started, the different type of hackers, and how government agencies are starting to recruit black hat hackers in the means of keeping, the systems that we use and depend on secure. My partner Muhammad, he will be discussing prevention on how to stop the black hat hackers and different techniques that you can use. So, to start with a brief history on hacking, the word hacker, it was born or said to be born in MIT's Tech Model Railway Club back in the 1960s. Now, at that time, hacker wasn't, the hackers that we have come to know today. This was a computer or technology wizard who had a passion for exploring electronic systems. More than likely taking them apart to see the inner workings of the systems, to see how they do work, and if at all possible, make them work better, more efficiently. It wasn't until computers became more accessible to, civilians that a new breed of hackers started to take place. Next, I want to talk about the different type of hackers that started to evolve once computers became accessible to civilians. The first type is script kiddie. Now, this is a person who is a novice and uses existing computer scripts, hence the name. They lack the expertise to create their own scripts, so they look online for different types of scripts that they can use. A common script kiddie attack is a dosing or DDoSing, and this is where they would flood an IP with a lot of information to the point where it collapses under the strain. The next type of hacker that we have is a white hat. And this is a person who hacks into a computer network to test or evaluate its security. These are known as the ethical hackers. And they're usually a person with a college degree in IT security or computer science, and are usually certified with the most popular certifications like CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, which is issued by the EC Council. The next type of hacker is the black hat hacker. This is the more popular hacker, the ones that you see in the movies, like Bruce Willis's Die Hard. I believe it was the last installation of Die Hard, where the whole movie was based upon the government stopping, a computer hacker that was looking to do serious damage to the country. And also TV shows like Mr. Robot. This is a person who hacks into a computer network with a malicious or criminal intent. The next that we have on the list is gray hat hackers. And as you can imagine, these are the ones that fall between white and black hat hackers. This is a security expert who may sometimes violate laws or typical ethical standards, but does not, have that malicious intent that is associated with like a black hat hacker. They're not looking to steal money or information. They're probably more likely to deface like a website, probably to make a political point of some sort. The next type of hackers that we have are green hat, and this is a person who is new to the hacking world, but is passionate about the craft, and they work vigorously to excel at it to become full-blown hackers. Next, we have Red Hat hackers. And these are computer experts that have similar agendas to white hat hackers, which is stopping like a black hat hacker, but that is where the similarities end. Instead of reporting a malicious attack, they believe that they can and will take down the black hat hacker completely. They may launch a series of attacks and malware on the hacker that the hacker may have to replace, their whole system. Next and last but not least, we have Blue Hat. And these are hackers that are much like script kiddies, being that they are brand new to the hacking world. Their main agenda, though, is to take revenge on anyone who may make them angry. They have no desire to learn. They're just out for revenge. Now, next, I just want to touch upon some of the most famous hackers that, have in the hacking community. First, I have John Draper, aka Captain Crunch. Now, this is a gentleman back in the 1970s who exploited telephone systems that were managed by analog frequencies. Now, what he would do is he would use a technique called phreaking, and the equipment that he would use, believe it or not, came from a cereal box like Captain Crunch, which was a whistle from a cereal box. And he would use the phreaking technique to make free, long distance calls, and at times international calls. He did work in government. I believe it was, I forget which branch of government that he worked for. Well, service. I want to say Navy, but I'm not totally. Right now it escapes me, but while he was on tour, he would, help his fellow officers make free phone calls. And he is said to be the inspiration to Steve Jobs and Mr. Steve Wozniak. He built a device called, which is famous now, the Blue Box, which was, I guess, an evolved whistle that he would use for phreaking, which Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak used. Before Apple started, they would use that to build capital to start their company. The next hacker that I want to touch bases on is Robert Tappan Morris. Now, this gentleman was a graduate from Cornell University, and his claim to fame was the computer worm. He stated that his worm was an attempt to gauge the size of the internet and was released on November 2nd in 1998. This worm has come to be dubbed the Morris worm, which infected approximately 6,000 systems, which at that time I believe was about 10% of the internet. He intended for the worm to be unobtrusive, but due to a replication algorithm flaw, it was not smart enough to determine if a computer was previously infected, so it copied itself excessively, which caused heavy strain loads, causing financial damage, and it ultimately led back to him. And this led to him being the first person indicted and convicted under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1986. He served about 3 years of federal jail time and probation. Now, presently, Morris works for MIT in the Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department and helped found Silicon Valley's tech incubator Combinator, which is a program that assists young startups to get their business off the ground by helping groom them, making them more attractive to investors. The next gentleman that we have on the list, famous hackers, is Kevin Mitnick, whose alias is the Condor, the Dark Side Hacker. And he is probably the most famous hacker in computer history, being the first one to make the FBI's most wanted list. He is considered a master at social engineering, manipulating people into giving out passwords and other information that unlocked sensitive information on networks. And he started his hacking career at a young age, at 15. He started breaking into computer networks like Pacific Bell, Nokia, IBM, and Motorola, just to name a few. And this was just by using his cunning and persuasion, not really, implementing any attacks on hardware. Mitnick, he was arrested in 1995, and the judge at that time, their ruling over his case, they felt that he was a menace, that his skills were so threatening that they placed him in solitary confinement because it was believed that he could start a nuclear war by whistling codes into a payphone. Now, he spent 12 months in prison, 8 of which was spent in solitary confinement. And after serving that, he was on supervised release, where he spent his time continuing to hack, and eventually went on the run from the FBI for about 3 years, using cloned cell phones to help hide his location. He would often listen to their phone calls, and in the midst of a raid, he would leave donuts when they came to get him, narrowly escaping the raids. He was eventually caught in 1999 and served 5 years, and upon his release, he started his own security firm, the Mitnick Security Consulting LLC, which runs penetration tests for its clients. He has written a couple of books, The Art of Deception and The Art of Intrusion, and does appearances at conferences that I will later touch upon. The last person on this list is a very important one in my eyes. He is the one that, pretty much bridged the gap between hackers and government agencies. And his name is Jeff Moss. He is not a hacker. Well, in the hacking community, probably not considered a black hat hacker. His alias is known as the Dark Tangent. During several interviews, he mentioned that he did hack a little bit, but I guess he wanted to change that aspect of malicious intent or the stigma that's attached to black hat hackers. So he changed his alias. He wouldn't give, the name that he used before, the alias that he used before. But he did change it to Dark Tangent to try and disassociate himself from the hackers that probably taught him different techniques on how to exploit systems. Now, Jeff, his claim to fame, he started first let me start off by giving a brief description. He's a graduate of Gonzaga University with a BA in criminal justice. He started his professional career at Ernst & Young LLP in the Information System Division. He was also a director at Secure Computing Corporation, assisted in establishing the professional service department in the U.S., Asia, and Australia. He created DEF CON, which is a hacker convention, in 1993. Now, DEF CON it wasn't his idea at first. It actually was a party it started out as a party for members of the Platinum Net, which is a FIDO protocol-based hacking network out of Canada. And, a friend reached out to him to help with the party and ended up bailing out on him, leaving him to host the party himself, which was a huge success. And later on, a friend asked him how, he could make money from that. And he eventually started the Black Hat briefings for professional agencies, which is a spin-off of DEF CON. Now, in DEF CON, they have different type of games that they play. DEF CON, first off, let me state that it is a conference where hackers, commissioners of not commissioners, but the attendees include computer security professionals, lawyers, journalists, security researchers, students, and federal government employees. And that came into play a couple of years after the first one, because they saw the importance of this type of conference and how they can learn and stay on top of the different techniques that hackers would use to exploit systems. And also they would use it as a recruit, as a means to recruit these different type of, hackers. He also started Black Hat briefings, which is a more professional atmosphere where you have, government agencies, security firms, and the Black Hat briefings, they're placed, or, they have been taking place all over the world, places like Las Vegas, Barcelona, Tokyo, London, just to name a few. And the Black Hat briefings typically are scheduled before DEF CON. I keep going back between the two because I believe, they're pretty much connected. The DEF CON takes place in Las Vegas annually. And one of the more popular games that they play at DEF CON is Capture the Flag. And this is a hacking competition where teams of hackers attempt to attack and defend computers and networks using certain software and network structures. And federal law agencies such as the FBI, DOD, United States Postal Inspection Service, and DHS have known to attend. And I'm sure it's there to recruit, different type of hackers. So in closing, as the world of technology continues to grow, so does the world of hacking. And we hold a lot of information, whether it's personal, financial, our everyday lives are on these machines. And the government has, is aware of how difficult it is becoming to keep all of this information, secure. Year by year, you see different, on the news, you can see different breaches, you know, attacks on financial institutions like the credit cards. It's escaping me the one major one of the credit union, or the can't remember the name, but you see the breaches all over the place. Sony, Equifax, that's the one that I was thinking of, where, you know, all of our financial information and social security numbers are stored, and how they are being exploited, and how that sensitive information, if it's put in the, you know, wrong hands, can be very damaging. And to fight these intruders, government agencies are starting to, you know, go to places like these conferences, DEF CON and Black Hat Briefing, to try and, you know, recruit different Black Hat hackers, along with, you know, different type of hackers, to, you know, to shorten the gap between the two worlds. I believe the worlds are starting to, you know, combine or merge into one. It's almost like if you can't beat them, have them join your team. And that is pretty much it for my portion of this project. I hope you enjoyed, and now I will give it off to my partner so he can talk about the prevention aspect of hacking. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody, my name is Muhammad Islam. In this part, I will like to share with you information on how to prevent your company and you as an individual from Black Hat hackers. In the present time, we see a lot of companies getting hacked by Black Hat hackers. Within the past, hackers steal sensitive information to the network infrastructure. By the time the company realizes the hacker has already covered his tracks and made it look like a malfunction in the system. Black Hat hackers are very malicious and aggressive. The education system should offer actual hands-on training of courses for anyone in the technology field. This will help reduce the amount of malicious hackers from getting sensitive information about you or your company. The prevention starts with the company's tools and the protocols that the company may or may not use. The first line of defense is called the network-bound control. This is a mechanism that will actually attack any threat found outside of the defended network. The second is the defense in depth, which is designed to overcome a single point of failure within the network-bound control model. The third is the continuous monitoring. This helps the network remain healthy and will find any necessary or continuous to review its faults and make sure it comes back to its original point. Although there's a drawback to this, it is managing a lot of the complexity of the information that is collected, which means it is taking up valuable time from the white hat hackers and valuable space within the network infrastructure and the hardware's main memory space, which is the RAM. Companies in the government such as DOC, FBI, or NYPD, they all use content filters and security testing. The content filters are a gatekeeper, so that way internal employees know not to go on certain sites. which can be configured within the IT department or the cybersecurity section of these companies or agencies. In security testing, you would want to consider hiring a company to penetrate and see what your vulnerabilities are within the network system or the network infrastructure. This will help. This will give you a list, and they will help you fix what needs to be fixed. Certain companies are trusted, like Coldfire or NetGuard can be trusted with these penetration testing because they do this for a living. The future aspect of black hat hackers are unknowing, but what we do know is discussed in DEF CON conferences. Within these conferences, we see both black hat hackers and ethical hackers coming together and working among each other. Two things that they're worried about is honing of IoT things. We see it more and more in the present day, but in the future, this is one of many things that may be our duty to make sure that it doesn't get hacked. In the conference, they gave us 2 tips. One was to segment your IoT network, and the other is to update the firmware regularly. Another thing we're worried about is machine learning going to the dark side, because a lot of these technologies are used in everyday things, such as self-driving cars, in Uber, to CT machines. We, companies in the industry, are using this to improve their malware and attack detections. DEF CON introduced a new tool called DeepHack. This is an open source AI that will hack web applications from the internet to your mobile device. Also in the future, we would also want to consider teaching every computer science, tech, cybersecurity major or information technology major how to hack at a college level. This will offer many students to learn the fundamentals of ethical hacking. Most colleges, they do have it, but it's all about theorems. There are no hands-on aspect. We have to start giving our students more hands-on experience. Without that, our future may look like how we are now. Black hat hackers always attacking us, and that's not good. With such skills, it would be easier for a college student who is looking for a job without experience to get a job easier, because they will be able to pinpoint flaws within the system and fix those flaws within the company's system. And in conclusion, as the world advances, we also notice the use of technology is either being pwned or hacked by black hat hackers. We can assume that the latest technological advances that black hat hackers can either take control or steal valuable information to exploit company needs all over the world. This is the reason why we even have protocols and plans. It is to assume the company either has a mole or the infrastructure is compromised. With companies and government agencies, they get the top of the line protocols and equipment and tools. This will help prevent cyber threats in the future, and we can assume that black hat hackers are going to be more malicious unless we do something about it. the only route is to go toward our education system and try to fix that as much as we can.